Hello and welcome. Today I wanted to talk about Kotaro Lives Alone, the anime adaptation for the manga of the same name, created by Mami Tsumura. This is a comedy slice of life genre with 10 episodes running. The episodes consist of multiple small stories in one. In each episode, we learn more about Kotaro and why he acts the way that he does. Our main characters are Kotaro, Karino, Tamaru, and Mizuki. We also have a plethora of other characters that make an appearance in this anime, but I won't be covering them, or I'll cover them as needed. In episode 1, we first meet Kotaro at the grocery store doing math so we can get enough tissue boxes for everyone in the apartment complex he's moving into. He gives everyone tissues, and we meet his next door neighbor, Karino, who's understandably concerned and worried about his next door neighbor, who seems to be a child living alone. Concerned about the safety of Kotaro, Karino accompanies him to the bathhouse and on his errands every day as it becomes their daily routine. Episode 2, we learn about Kotaro as we understand why he talks the way that he does, mimicking Tono-sama, Kotaro's favorite character. He talks along with the show and even carries a toy samurai sword as he wants to be just like Tono-sama, asking Karino if he could use his TV in episode 1 as he wanted to watch it. The show's finale is coming up, and we see Kotaro performing and giving 10 yen to anyone who will watch him. We get introduced to Tamaru for this episode, and he wants to do something special for Kotaro since it's the finale for Tono-sama. Karino, Tamaru, and Kotaro watch the finale for Tono-sama together. The reason Tono-sama is important to Kotaro is because Tono-sama was basically there for Kotaro when no one else was. That's why he loves the show so much and wants to be like Tono-sama. Episode 3, Kotaro's new lawyer listens to him perform. Afterwards, she gives Kotaro his allowance, and he asks where the money comes from, which she responds that it's from a generous benefactor, when in reality the money comes from his mother's life insurance. After Kotaro receives his allowance, he always gives the person a week's worth of basically journal entries on what he's been doing. Small things I like. Oh, I've seen a butterfly, or things that happen throughout the day, things that he would probably tell his parents if they were there. Episode 4, it features Kotaro and his friend as we see the difference between the two, how Kotaro's friend lives and how Kotaro lives, and we get this really deep appreciation from Kotaro for what everyone else around him has because he doesn't have those things. He doesn't have a mother to look after him or a father like his friend does, and his friend has like extra shit. He's got a mother, he's got a father, he's got a maid. Kotaro struggles with learning to play dodgeball, and we really see how his trauma affects him in daily life, associating catching the ball with how his mother ignored him. Karino helps him get over this hurdle. In episode 5, we finally understand the meaning behind the tissues and why Kotaro buys them, the truth being that he had to eat tissues to survive, so he'd buy the brands that tasted the sweetest. When he's alone, Kotaro eats a lot of food to make up for the fact that he's eating alone, but when he invites everyone over, they have a simple meat and vegetable stir-fry and eat it family style. Kotaro's class is going to be having a play, and he volunteers to play the smiling son, stating that he's good at faking a smile, as his teacher talks to Karino, explaining the fake smile situation. We see Kotaro's friend Ryota as they promised each other they would watch the Period meteor shower, where we learn Kotaro ran away from the orphanage since his dad found out where he was. Episode 6, someone new is moving into the apartment complex, asking Kotaro all kinds of questions as they get closer and closer. I never trusted this motherfucker for real, alright? He was too friendly, okay? Karino peeped that weird shit too. In the end, Iota ended up protecting Kotaro and not telling his dad where he was. Episode 7 has this fake ass bitch in it. Basically, her parents are going through like some sort of squabble or whatever the fuck. So because of that, she doesn't want her daughter to feel like she has lesser than her friends. So she sends her daughter to Kotaro's house because he basically doesn't have anything. Kotaro ends up getting sick but doesn't want to admit it until one of his classmates shows him that strength is admitting the truth even when others might perceive you as weak. Kotaro ends up meeting 3 children, and the oldest is just wallowing in self-pity. He's just full of it. He ends up leaving his brother and sister with Kotaro so he can get a break. He ends up venting to Kotaro, telling him how he should understand because they're the same, making a remark about how their parents threw them away, while Kotaro defends this, which is pretty much the exact same thing their parents are doing to them. It's just a vicious cycle. Kotaro goes and tries to check up on those three kids a couple of days later to realize that Child Protective Services came and removed them from the home. This man has found a bag of chips and is eating them. Damn near probably done with the bag because it's been 2 hours. They were looking for leaves to eat. He found some chips. And like a greedy bitch, he ate most of them. We say goodbye to Mizuki in episode 7 because she doesn't want to get found by her abusive boyfriend. Karino has to go to the movies to watch something that kids will like so that he can have more inspiration for his manga. Kotaro decides to accompany him so that they can try to watch the Tonosaman movie. Some of his friends from school want to go and they end up wanting to see this dinosaur movie instead of Tonosaman. He doesn't want them to pick on Kotaro for being poor, so he buys them popcorn and shit. Kotaro gets a little jealous of the treatment his friends get, and to apologize, Karino takes him back to the movies to see Tonosaman. Kotaro ends up meeting Tamura's son Yuta, and to be honest, it's kind of cute. He's like a little version of his dad. We see that Tamura's ex-wife had been lying to him about their son not wanting to see him, when in reality she was trying to keep him from Tamura, who sends Yuta away, which is actually pretty hard for him to do, and he does that because he doesn't want Yuta to grow up thinking that it's okay to do bad things. We get Takisamura to basically replace Mizuki. Takisu has a fear of children, but Kotaro knows this and helps her start to work it out. Episode 9, we see there are a number of strangers that are willing to take care of Kotaro, one being his dentist, who actually takes care of all the kids that he sees after having one child who was mistreated by her parents. Kotaro has an umbrella sharing campaign that he does whenever it rains, which is the first time we've heard him talk about his dad in a positive light, as he keeps referring to him as my mentor in this episode. I really love the comparison scene between Kotaro's dad and Kotaro's mom, seeing the difference in how they treated him, Kotaro's dad protecting Kotaro from the rain, while his mother was basically ignoring them. She was just all up in her phone, wasn't paying him no mind. Yeah, this is the first time I've heard him talk about his father in a positive light, so it makes me curious to see, like, what made him such an asshole. Tasuku comes to see Kotaro, but it's just so he can try to get money from him so that he can help pay off his debts. Kotaro knows this and helps him out anyway. In episode 10, Karino is offered his own series by his editor. Karino's ex comes to pick up Kotaro from school, and I don't know why she's here, to be honest. She's staying with Karino for a few days since she's arguing with her current boyfriend. Go to your folks, bitch. She lies about getting a flyer from the school. They try to spin her as someone who cares about Karino, but I can't buy that shit at all. She wasn't even going to tell him about the showcase, but my man still made it. Now, she does admit she was wrong, but that don't fix Jack Diddley, honey. We learn the origin of Kotaro's God shirt. We also see Kotaro checks several different papers for information on his parents. Karino goes with Kotaro to visit the grave of his grandparents. As they clean the grave, the side that Karino is on has Kotaro's mom's name on it, prompting Karino to stand on that side of it, hiding the name from Kotaro. Karino has Kotaro promise to take him to the grave every time he goes so he can tell his mother about Kotaro growing up. Meeting back with everyone else at the apartment complex as they all talk amongst one another, ending the anime. Now, I love this anime. It was pretty good. Well, love is a strong word. I enjoyed this anime. Something I enjoyed about it is that they balanced it pretty well. There was no point in time in the anime where I was like, God, this is depressing, or God, this is too exciting. Not exciting, but like too bubbly happy, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like they did a really good job balancing it, because they could have spun it a whole nother way. They could have just had it nothing but darkness, darkness, death, and abuse. That's how they could have had this whole thing, but they spun it pretty well. I love the story and how much we learn about Kotaro. I enjoy the structure of the episodes, and I think it tells a better story than if they had did it like a regular anime. So even though it's 10 episodes, it's more like 20. I forget that Kotaro is a child because of how mature he is, but you get moments like in episode 5 where he buys all the samples because he thinks that the sample lady is being forced to eat what she can't sell. He has such a kind heart, sharing his cake with the cats and doing his best to be like Tono-saman, showing people how much he cares for them by helping them through their issues, the same as they do for him. Karino can really relate to Kotaro, having lost both of his parents when he was younger. I think this makes him the perfect friend for Kotaro. Having grown up alone, even though he didn't go through the same abuse and trauma that Kotaro did, Karino has an understanding of that loneliness, so it makes it easier for him to understand Kotaro. Now, this anime is dark, okay, I will say that, but the dark undertones are balanced well, I feel. I feel that there's not too much of one thing. We can't forget that Kotaro is a child and he has a lot more growing to do with people that actually love and care for him. Even though he's traumatized, he still works through those hurdles in his everyday life. I suggest you do check out the anime and form your own opinion. And if you don't want to watch the anime, then I suggest you read the manga. The animation for this anime is pretty nice. It's pretty smooth animation for the most part. I have no gripes with it. There's nothing that stuck out to me as problematic. The art style, I believe, helps the story. I feel like at first it was kind of hard to get used to with the way the eyes are drawn. But after watching it, I found that it actually helped complement the story more than I thought it would. The best character for me is a hash up between Karino and Kotaro because I thought that they were pretty good characters. They're both pretty awesome in their own right. The worst character for me, personally, was, hold on, let me get her name. I don't want to. What the fuck? This bitch. She was the worst character for me. Karino's ex. I don't know what she was doing for the story. She just kind of felt tacked on near the end there. But all in all, it was a great story, and I think you should check out Kotaro Lives Alone for yourself. That's all for me.
Man, you are so lucky, Kotaro.